Hi, my name is Kelsey Leonards, and today I'll be talking about my criminal justice final project. So let's move on to the first part, which is the primary components of criminal justice and the responsibilities. So there are three primary and main components, which is the police and law enforcement, the criminal courts, and the correctional agencies. All of these are very important. The law enforcement consists of the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, police officers and such as Homeland Security. Courts include bailiffs, judges, and attorneys, and the correction agencies include parole, jails, probation, and also prisons. So the officer's duty is to carry out the law, and they are also about the safety of the public. Some other things that they do are investigations to find suspects, that are apprehending the law. They're supposed to maintain peace and safety and order in the public community. They help present these forms of emergency types of community service. They protect the rights and freedoms that everybody has in this way. Now, the criminal court's purpose is to manage and run fair and equal trials for offenders and to reach a decision in the end on the criminal cases that are in those trials. Most courts, they have to deal with due process, which balances power, capability of the law, and is able to protect people. They have to reach a decision on if offender is guilty or innocent and create a sentence then by doing this if they are being charged guilty. The adversarial system is kind of like this. It upholds the law by doing this as well. By ensuring these rights, they're protecting everybody's individual freedom. Everybody deserves these rights. And, they must provide the checks on the exercise of the power as well. So the correctional agencies are kind of like the last step. If an offender is guilty, they are brought to these agencies too. It includes duty of carrying out orders that are given by the courts, and their jobs to protect individuals that are part of the community. They're supposed to rehabilitate, reform, and reintegrate the offenders in the program, and supposed to bring them kind of back into society as new and improved individuals, who have hopefully learned from their mistakes and will not repeat them. The next part is problems that keep the system from functioning effectively and efficiently. So there's a lot of different problems. Prison overcrowding is one of them. It's measured in different ways today. Populations in prison, the capacity for these offenders have tripled since the 1980s. The criminal justice textbook, Criminal Justice: A Brief Introduction, talks about that, and it shows that the rates of incarceration are at an all-time high in the United States, even with the decline in crime rates. Over 1,700 state prisons, over 100 federal prisons, that are in operation today. Another part is drug law violations. They're actually the largest group of inmates that are in federal prisons. This has increased more than 3/4 since 1980. Today, it is around 51% of people that are in prison from this. Now, drugs are a type of issue that involves alienation and the feeling of the unknown. People want an escape from their lifestyle, and drugs is an answer to that in this question. Another thing is race and immigration. There's a huge difference in whites and blacks that are being incarcerated. Around only 1,000 white men for every 100,000 are being incarcerated, where it's 7,000 black men for this with every 100,000 black men. So that's very different. Immigration also has it bad. It's around 12% that are in federal prisons of just immigrants as well. So that's another problem. Also, the disease AIDS is a problem with this too. It was a big killer at the time as well, just like mental disorders and terrorism. There are many prisons that hold over 1,000 people that have AIDS and HIV. It used to be the leading cause of death, actually, in inmates in prison. So let's move on to the next point, which is function and procedure of the Federal Uniform Crime Reporting Program. So it's is a part of the FBI, and it is the best crime indicator that the United States has. It is also today known as the UCR/NIBRS program. It's a database that deals with statistical information that is reported and run by the FBI. It deals with crimes that are actually reported, because a lot of crimes are not actually reported. So this one deals with the ones that are. So this changed before in the past, and used to be just the UCR. Now it also has the NIBRS. It changed because there was like only petty kind of thefts that were being shown, like larceny. So National Incident-Based Reporting System, the NIBRS, began its development in 1988, and it gathers information on many details on criminal incidents where the UCR original program didn't do this. It does more than just the Part 1 and Part 2 offenses now. It's replaced with 22 general offenses, and it involves the crime clock, which shows like kind of what some crimes that happen like every minute. Like there's one murder every 35.4 minutes. That's an example of what it shows. So, comparing and contrasting present-day criminal justice traditions and practices with historical precedents. So, it has definitely changed over the past. People did not used to be as scared and worried as they are now. Crime has definitely increased. This past century has shown a lot of what criminal justice has, and has been influential in shaping the system that we know today. So, some crimes that like people know of include like the Manson family killings. That's like a specific one. Other non-specifics are like terrorist attacks, mass shootings, and murder. It is told in our textbook that mass shootings, that in the 1980s there was only around 18 or so mass shootings. In the 1990s there was only 50 or 54. 2000s there was over 80, like around 87. You can see that has increased drastically. That is something that really shaped today. 1980 showed a huge increase in the selling of drugs, which increased crime a lot as well. And then we also were shown of like the abuse of police power, and everything kind of also changed when 9/11 happened, sadly. This showed how people are afraid and weary of crime, everything kind of like this, and how it's more protected with the TSA, everything kind of that goes into that category. The Peelian Principles are a group of 9 basic principles that were constructed by Sir Robert Peel. They all relate to the policing in today's society, and they're known for being the kind of basis of the current organization for law enforcement that is going on today, which, these are still in effect today, even though that they were taken on along. So, it talks about how police officers cannot be biased, about the public has to be ready to accept the laws that the police officers have to enforce, and, how the 7th principle, the basic foundation of the other 8 principles, it kind of shows what, police officers are supposed to do and what's the best thing that they should do. Let's move on to the procedures offenders undergo in his or her progression through the system. So there's a lot of different things that they go through. They have the first appearance when they first appear before a magistrate. They also have which this talks about like the type of hearing, if it's a probable cause. It's also going to talk to them about, what they're being arrested for. Bail can also happen during this. Then there's the grand jury, which helps decide and filter toward eliminating any further processing that is occurring. It used to serve in a different way, though, but, these juries are very private also. It's something important to know. And preliminary hearing is similar to a grand jury. It's where a grand jury is not allowed, that this will happen as well. Instead of the defendant being in a higher court, it is by a lower court. That's kind of a huge difference between the two. The arraignment and the plea is after the indictment has occurred, which the indictment happens earlier on. This is the first appearance before the court can make an actual trial. Some don't have to talk and answer. They don't have to make a plea, and this is where they stay mute, which can be a defense as well. So The types of courtroom procedures. There's a few different ones. There's the trial initiation, jury selection, presentation of evidence, closing arguments, and also the judge's charge to the jury and the jury deliberations and the verdict. So, the jury selection, it talks about like the Sixth Amendment and how some people try to get excused, which involves challenges. Both attorneys will be able to ask questions to the defendant. A shadow jury may also come, which is, coming together in today's society. It's the opening statement where information is first presented towards the jury from the prosecuting attorney. This is where they're trying to prove, throughout the court, they're trying to talk about what they are going to talk about later on about what they should, the testimony of witnesses happens after this as well. Then there's the closing arguments, and the judge's charge happens after this. Both sides have the opportunity to state their main points once again, show why they believe that they are right, why the jury should kind of vote or their side, After this, the judge provides a summary of the evidence that was presented, and, the jury is then removed after the charge is able to make the decisions, which that's where the deliberations and the verdict are then next. This can last fairly short or actually long, like up to a few weeks or even just a few days or like a few hours even, It's where, it has to be unanimous and they need to talk and kind of like consider what the verdict should be. That is everything that I would like to talk about today. Thank you and have a wonderful day.